What's up, everyone? Welcome to a Club PF webinar. This one's for the month of February 2024. I am with a longtime friend, former colleague at HubSpot, Andrew Kaplan. Andrew, what's going on, my friend?
Part of the early team, dude.
Early team, very early team. So product-led growth, it's one of these things that... So actually, let me ask you this question really quick. Do you know, because I don't know the answer, but do you know the answer of like when did product-led growth officially get coined?
I hate this question. I kind of hate the term product-led growth
Oh,
because I feel like it's like this name that put a label on things that people were doing for a while. I think it was probably 2015, 2016-ish. I think it was OpenView, if I was to guess. But freemium had been a while. It had been around for a while. Like MailChimp was freemium. I was at Wistia for a while. They were freemium. I think it took OpenView to put the like guardrails around it.
yeah. I mean, HubSpot made the very conscientious, deliberate decision. What was it, like 2014, 15 to say like we need to disrupt how we basically sell. And they said, hey, I think they actually used Box as an example or Dropbox. It was a Dropbox, right, Andrew?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about how to maybe disrupt yourself, or maybe how to disrupt yourself if you're doing PLG today, because it's changed. There's a lot of changes in the last 10, 15 years around this concept. So you got so much good content. I'll have you do an intro in a moment. We can dive into some of the stuff. We can kind of zig and zag depending on where we want to go and what people think. But it's this idea of taking product-led growth, which is all about, in its most purest form, touchless sales. Like you don't need to talk to a human. You try the product out, you sign up, you swipe your credit card, you're good, done, sweet. Balancing that with, no, I need to qualify you, do discovery on you, gate the demo, gate all these things, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream, right? The dream is the touch the sale. And the reality is the other stuff that typically happens. And then there's this sort of tension on trying to balance the two. And let's poke at it a little bit, you know?
Let's do it. So yeah, why don't you do a quick set of the table, what we're going to cover today. We'll zig and zag though, depending on what people want to do, and then do a quick intro, and then we can just get into it.
Yeah, sounds good. We can keep it fluid. So we'll talk about what good PLG looks like, and specifically the intersection of sales-led and self-service motions. I kind of call this the hybrid model. I think there's been a lot of confusion around like what PLG is, like what it isn't, and how it works with sales teams. So we'll poke at all that stuff, talk about a few key principles, a bunch of examples. I'll share a few stories from my past, a bunch of screenshots as we go here.
Let's go do it. I love it. You have a ton of good examples in this deck, which is amazing. People listening, you're going to want to just stick around for all the great examples and almost like stories from Andrew's rich history in PLG.
Thank you. Well, I just feel like there's no point in having just information in an academic vacuum. I try to show real life examples so people can get a feel for what it looks like in the wild.
Love it.
So we'll structure today around kind of three core principles. The first one will be quick, which is why is it important to do this hybrid motion? How does it help us scale further than without it? We'll talk about segmentation, which is really a key in my experience to scaling this hybrid motion and balancing the two funnels. And then obviously the nuts and bolts of how sales-led works in conjunction in a self-serve environment. Cool. And so I'm Andrew. Mark already shared. I was early at HubSpot. He and I think, joined around the same time. I was employee number 200 or so. We had a lot of fun there and saw what high growth looked like on the inside. And then since then, I've gone off and learned a little bit more about what has become called product-led growth. I joined Wistia, which is a video marketing software company. I started and scaled a cross-functional growth team there. That company acquired hundreds of thousands of free users and tens of thousands of paid customers with no sales team. So it's like a really interesting e-commerce environment. And then I went to another company called Postscript. It's their 10th hire, also head of growth, which has gone on to become one of the largest apps in the Shopify ecosystem, another product-led business. Now I'm on my own. I run my own business called Delivering Value, where I coach people that have my former job leading growth teams, and I advise product-led SaaS companies to help them grow faster. Outside of the SaaS cloud world, I'm a dad. I got a 3-year-old. I got another one on the way in June. I'm a husband, and I'm really into woodworking. Like, I know it's a funny juxtaposition, but when I'm not in the cloud, I really like working with my hands. So that's what
Love
I'm
that.
about.
That's so good. We could do a whole session just woodworking. I love that.
I just moved in early January, and so it's nice because it like reset all the projects that I have around the house. I was kind of running out of projects at my old spot.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'm not a huge woodworker. I mean, I'm dangerous, but I got friends, like two friends that are just crazy about it. And yeah, it's just like the way you have your shop set up and, the techniques you use and the types of wood you like to work with. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole community, a whole subculture.
For sure.
So do you want to bounce around or should we just rock it here?
Let's start with the why. I always, me, like why, how, what to some degree. Like let's focus on the why and set the table.
Cool. All right, let's do that. So just move my little Zoom window here. All right.
No problem.
And so you kind of talked about it. Like this is the dream state at PLG. Somebody visits your website, they sign up for whatever the thing is that they can sign up for. Hopefully they use it in a meaningful way and get some value. And then they pull out their credit card and swipe it. And ideally, it doesn't stop there. Ideally, they continue to either upgrade in between plans or expand their usage over time. This is the dream. It's never this simple, right? Like it's easy to put it on the slide. And what I have learned makes this less simple is maybe the story that I learned during my time at Wistia, I guess is what helped me to understand the need for this hybrid motion outside of these 5 tiles here. Let me explain a little bit more. So when I was at Wistia, I shared it. Video marketing software company. I was there for about 4.5 years, early to the freemium motion. They had a freemium, I think back in 2012. And so by the time I joined the company in 2015, they already had hundreds of thousands of free accounts. They had tens of thousands of paying customers and literally 0 people working in sales, 100% touchless e-commerce, high volume, relatively low average revenue per customer environment. And it was dope. Like as a marketer coming from a traditional inside sales driven environment, I was like, wow, this is an incredible model. And something really interesting happened. I thought that this was the future of SaaS, was that SaaS was going to become e-commerce, and this was the validation for me. But something interesting started happening at some point along the line. And what happened is that people were raising their hands, asking for help. And they would write into customer service because that was the only place they could write in, but they weren't asking about their account or about their plan or troubleshooting stuff. They were asking basic questions, some of them on the free product, about how does this part of the tool work? And do you think it would work for this use case? And other folks were asking like more complicated stuff about integrations and like customizations. And some even said like, I'd like to build your product. I'd like to white label your product and build it into my platform. Could we talk? And other folks would explicitly ask to speak with sales. So it's kind of fascinating. Like we tried not to have a sales team. At some point, we just had members of the customer success team that were doing sales-like questions. And we realized that's stupid. So we decided that sales would be helpful. And then the question became, how do you do both? Like if we're a self-service freemium business, but we have a sales team, are we no longer self-serve? And we knew we didn't probably want or have the volume of sales reps to send every new account to our inside sales team, but we weren't sure how to identify who. Those were the things that led me down this journey. And what I've learned is that most mature modern day PLG companies or most modern day SaaS businesses usually run some flavor of this, right? There's a self-service motion, there's a sales motion, and then there's some overlap kind of in between. So that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to explore a little bit deeper. And that's how I learned that it's not one or the other, that you kind of need both of these to grow. And the real challenge is how do you grow total revenue without just shifting money from your self-service to your sales pocket or vice versa? How do you grow total revenue without just converting folks who would have already bought on their own or underserving people that need a custom one-to-one motion? So that's kind of the nature of the beast here.
No, I love this. And to me, we talk, as you know, a lot about like this idea of people first go to market. How do you make a go to market strategy, but then subsequently the experience match to how people buy today? And we talked a lot about that kind of concept at HubSpot, but it's even changed since then, right? We talked about inbound. Inbound is one component of people first go to market. You can think of it as, I almost call it like content-led growth now. What we failed to recognize at HubSpot, because the technology probably wasn't fully there, was gating everything with a form wasn't very people first, because it became very annoying over time. And now the transition from forms to signals is interesting. And I think PLG is one of the early places from a SaaS standpoint or a business model standpoint that gives you great signals right? Outside of your traditional sales team signals that the salesperson would collect. But now it's the person using the free product, using the free tool, whatever they're doing through their kind of, you get them to sign up through their activation to hopefully, longer term retention. Those signals can probably be a great source of um, buying intent for your sales team. Is this kind of some of the stuff you're going to talk about now, Andrew, a little
Yeah,
bit, or do you
it's
think I get
huge.
that
Yeah,
wrong?
it's huge. So you can use the product for intent. And if you wanted, there's even some really advanced stuff that isn't going to be in here, but we can talk about at the end, which is you can even ungate part of your product, do something like a self-service interactive demo and use that intent data to segment, to retarget, to do all kinds of stuff, right? So that's the name of the game here.
Yeah, we talk about that in Club PF. Yeah, it comes up almost every week or two around this idea of interactive demos that
Yeah.
are not fully gated. Like, let's try to get to that for sure. I know you have, though, on the next couple slides here, you have now a new visual, this one size doesn't fit all approach, but then like instead of that just a linear track, it splits out a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to just kind of unpack that a bit?
Yeah. Do you want to just jump there?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Because if not, I'm going to get into segmentation and the role that segmentation plays in this future world, but we can loop back to it.
Let's loop back.
So let's do this. So let's talk about like the nuts and bolts, of how it works. All right, still seeing the slides?
Yeah, we see it now. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about how we tie it together. What does the actual hybrid funnel look like? So I'm going to use colors for the next couple of slides here. Yellow is going to be your sales-led motion. Blue is going to be your self-service motion. And we're going to talk about how to integrate.
And hold on one sec. As you go about talking with this, Derek has a question that's, I think, relevant to everything you're going to say now. He asks, does this model, the overlapping circles, the hybrid approach, also apply when the company has a PLG product that's 10K, say, and an enterprise B2B product of 100K?
Yeah. Yes. Although, is that the same product in this example, Derek? Like, is it the same product and a different tier, like different packaging and pricing? Or is it like product A and then a totally different product?
Yeah, different products. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you can have, let me just think about that for a second. I think if you have totally different products, I think you could have ways that one becomes a feeder for the other using like intent data and kind of like typical product-led segmentation and activation and engagement principles, I think could help you to grow either revenue within existing plans or increase the likelihood that someone upgrades from plan 1 to plan 2. But I think for folks that are coming in your enterprise B2B product for 100K, probably that's your sales-led first model with maybe some components of product-led as a nurturing activity. That's like what I've seen. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's what I've seen most common for big enterprise level businesses that like want to do PLG. What I have learned is that when you launch like a free trial or a free motion or whatever it is, it ends up being that someone's in the sales process, like kind of disengages in the sales process, engages in the self-service thing, and then comes back to the sales-led process. So I've seen it to be a nurturing activity more so than a revenue generating standalone activity at that price point.
I definitely have seen that too. He says it's different but complementary product. I actually think this is where interactive demos can make a big difference too. So we'll get to that as well. But like I think that's like the marriage,
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we got yellow, which is sales-led, blue, which is self-serve, and we're going to talk about how these play together. So this I'm going to oversimplify because it's easy to complicate and it's harder to simplify. So if we think about the traditional sales-led experience, it's some flavor of this. Somebody's on your site, they sign up for some type of sales-led offer, a demo, a price quote, maybe they click the get in touch button, something like that. There's some qualification on the marketing and then on the sales side, maybe there's an opportunity stage in there, but at some point, if there's a product-led offer, there's going to be some kind of one-to-one activation experience, hopefully a one-to-one purchase experience, and likely a one-to-one upgrade experience. This is the HubSpot that I worked at back in 2014, whenever Mark, or 2011 to 2014, right? This is kind of the environment that we came from. But when we think about freemium, when I went to Wistia, it looks basically like this, 100% self-service. People would visit the website. This is that e-commerce engine I talked about with a little bit more detail. Someone visits the website, they sign up for the thing, whether it's a free plan or a free trial, reverse free trial, whatever it is. There's some activation journey that happens, helping folks receive value, getting to that aha moment. They can choose to either keep using the product for free forever. They could purchase a paid plan on their own and swipe their credit card. Maybe they do that and upgrade. They could use the free plan for a while and upgrade 2 years down the road. That's kind of the magic of freemium. So we have this self-service funnel, our sales funnel. And then if we combine the two, it's going to look like this, which is, if you want, you can still stay in one of our colors siloed, right? You could sign up in the yellow, just like what we talked about. You could always fill out a price quote or a get in touch request and go through your sales-led motion. You could be allergic to sales and come into the self-service motion and convert that way. No worries there. But there's these three really interesting moments where we can integrate the two experiences that we're going to explore. I'm going to highlight them quickly, and then we're going to go deeper in each, and I'm going to share examples. And if folks have questions, we can go slow. So the three moments are these. The first is based on the offer type. This one's the most straightforward, and we'll talk about it in a second. The second is based on something that you shared during the sign-up process. And there's, I'll share some examples in a second. And then the third is based on some of the stuff you were talking about, Mark, which is your behavior inside of the tool or maybe outside of the tool, some intent data. And so there's these three moments where you go from the self-serve funnel up to the sales funnel, potentially and vice versa. I'm just going to pause if there's any questions or if anything there seems funky. If not, we can go forward and let's talk about examples.
So far, so good. So my question, you can answer now or just later, would be, how do you then take this idea? I mean, you're gonna say you implement it, because it doesn't seem too complicated. I mean, it's complicated once you get into the weeds, but how do you make sure sales understands the motions and like how they play into this? Like, how do you educate sales
on what to do and how to go about it?
Exactly. Like, what are you seeing that has worked basically in that regard?
And so just for context, are we talking about teaching sales reps who are coming from traditional sales-led environments, or are we thinking a new sales rep joining this type of modern hybrid approach? They're just new to the company. The motion's already ramped up.
I would say someone who's more traditional and has typically only ever followed up with the demo request, the hand raise, explicit hand raise done outbound, right? Some, they don't know a lot of outbound. How do you make sure that sales understands how to help these leads? Because to me, this is a very consultative model. To your point with Wistia, people are saying, I need help. They don't want to be sold. They want help using the product, maybe, or something like to that regard.
Yeah. It's a great question. So I think part of it, although we skipped over the segmentation, a lot of it comes down to segmentation and understanding folks a little bit more about them. So if we go back here and we think about if there was no sales team, there would be a bunch of segmentation happening once somebody signs up. We want to learn stuff about people and then show them different things and help them in different ways based on what we learn about them. And this is what good sales reps do if there was no product-led experience, right? It's like you get on the phone with a sales rep before they go into autopilot on the demo. They'd ask you questions about you and your background and your company and your goals and your timeline and all that. And then they would customize their presentation to meet your needs. And that's kind of what we want to do in this product-led environment. We want to identify some key things that we think are going to help either in a one-to-one or one-to-many motion, and then make sure that we're arming whatever conversion lever we have. So in this case, if somebody's signing up and we're integrating them into the sales experience, we want to make sure that we're sending the right signals into the CRMs where the sales reps are hanging out. We want to make sure that we share those goals, those jobs to be done, maybe the levels of experience that somebody signs up with, so that the sales rep is enabled to continue them along that journey. So I think it's making sure the data is in the right place, education on what the journey is, are probably the two building blocks that you could riff off of.
I love it. All right, so then finish this up, go through the examples, and then let's go back to segmentation.
Yeah. Cool. So we talked about these three key moments. Let's explore them a little bit more. So when we think about the offer type, so when somebody signs up, they get to control the experience that they sign up for. If they sign up and they just prefer to engage with the sales team, there's typically a few offers, even in product-led environments, where they can engage, right? A price quote, get in touch, guided demos, etc. Or if they don't want that, which plenty of folks do, or don't, excuse me, they can sign up for a product-led offer. And that's where your free plan, free trial, maybe a reverse free trial, ungated demo, those would all be in that bucket. They can engage, they can go deeper, and they don't have to talk to someone. This is kind of the first. The user gets to control. The second is during the sign-up process. I kind of teased this a second ago, but there's different ways that you can identify who should go to sales when they sign up. In my experience, about 15% of the total signups get siphoned off and sent directly to the sales team. So even if you sign up for the self-serve product, we might see something about you that says, hey, even though you're signed up, we're not going to stop you from using the product. But instead of us sending you a one-to-many experience in the product via email, et cetera, we're going to send you into our one-to-one because we think you're worth it. And so
Account
to
fits,
identify,
named accounts, right? That type of stuff. Like it was all
yeah,
predetermined. Yeah. Like good fit. Yeah.
exactly. And so it's like sometimes it might be based on some of the segmentation stuff, high value use cases, level of experience. If they sign up for, like, let's say a free trial of your enterprise plan versus your free plan, that would be another indicator. If they sign up from one of your premium like shopper pages, like if they signed up from an integrations page and integrations are only on your most expensive plan, and that's where they signed up for your trial from, that might be another indicator, or something else, either that you enrich under the covers or ask in the sign up form. The goal is about 15%, is typically what I see. So during the sign up process is the second moment. And then the third moment is based on stuff they do later, intent signals. And there's 3 unique types of these that we can explore. The first is hand raising. Somebody that's using the product, they're on their own, even if they don't look like a top 15% account at sign up, they might just raise their hand and be like, hey, I just need to talk to somebody on the sales team. I prefer it. I've got a couple questions and I'd feel better just talking to a person. And that's what we saw at Wistia. The second is based on your usage, based on your volume. Even if you sign up and you don't look like a high value account, if you do a whole bunch of stuff and the volume that you have looks like a whale, probably you should be treated like a whale, and that would be a back-end intent signal. And the third is based on your behavior or engagement data. Are you behaving or using the product in a way that indicates, geez, you might be a high value account? And those would be 3 different ways that your in-product usage or behavior could correlate to buying intent. And that would be the types of stuff that you would send directly to your CRM to empower your team. So here's a couple examples. Hand raising is the easiest one because you just build in these moments where people can raise their hands and ask for help. So here's a cool example. This is from Typeform. It's an old screenshot, but it's really fun. And it's literally the first thing that you see when you sign up. Hey, thanks for signing up. Do you want to fly solo and explore on your own? Would you like to raise your hand and ask for a little bit of help? I think Pendo also does this today, or it used to do this today, where the first thing you would be asked when you signed up is, help us help you. How do you like to explore new tools? And it allows you to choose your own adventure. On the usage-based side, this is actually an old screenshot from work my team did at Wistia, where there's a certain number of videos included on your free plan. And based on how quickly your cup overfilled, so to speak, we would potentially put you in our usage-based PQL program. You could also do this if you have usage limits on your plans. So like the example that Derek was asking earlier, if you're on like a $10,000 plan that has a certain usage limit, when somebody gets awfully close to that limit or maybe over that limit, that might trigger a backend usage-based PQL. There's another common example from Slack. I think this is like one of the most famous ones that they do still today, which is when you get close to your usage limit, they start marketing to you in different ways. And then another example from my old friends at Wistia, this would be a behavioral-based engagement. So from time to time, you'll see different software companies will offer you free trials of their more high-value plans. And when you engage in those, usually on the back end, what it does is it shows high intent and it triggers some action or outreach from the corresponding team. So this is a great example from Wistia doing this. Here's another example from Canva. We'll talk about Canva in a second when we get into segmentation. They do the same thing. So periodically, if you use Canva a lot, they'll just give you these things that'll be like, hey, we have a special offer. Try our next tier up plan for 30 days. And if you take them up on that on the back end, something usually gets triggered and someone personally will reach out if your other details look like you're a high value plan. So hybrid motion basically looks like this. 3 moments where we can integrate the 2 funnels. The user has control over a lot of the experience, but we do enhance the experience for folks that we think might find value in it or might need it. And if you do this correctly, what I've personally seen is this in terms of outcomes. In a given month, what I have typically seen is in terms of total number of new customers, like if we're talking about a high volume environment like the one I worked in Wistia or at Postscript, typically what it looks like is this, which is in a given month, sales should account for about 20% of the number of new customers. If you got 100 new customers in a month, the sales led should be about 20 of those customers, and the other 80 should pull out their credit card and buy touchless on their own if you've created a good experience and you've got good balance. But in terms of revenue is where it gets interesting because it usually flip-flops. Because those, and this is only for new accounts, not expansion and upgrades, but for the new accounts, sales is only talking to the whales. Right. So it makes sense. They're bringing in a whole bunch of the revenue. A lot of the smaller, product-led opportunities eventually grow into larger ones and they grow and expand and all that good stuff. But when they're brand new customers, Usually they're a lot less revenue. So this is kind of a good overview of the high level model here.
Yeah, this is awesome. Let me know if there's any questions, folks. We can feed them to Andrew. I'm taking a note down. This reminds me of like the intersection now of partner-led growth and sales-led growth, which is more like outbound, if you will,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And then there's community-led growth, if you will, and product-led growth, which is more like inbound, right? And those two things both intersecting with one another.
Right.
And I'm saying this because you also, though, before you get to the free product, like you need top of funnel traffic. You need something. So, like, quick question on that. Like, that ultimately is probably never really the responsibility of a PLG team. Someone else has to get enough traffic to generate that sign up volume. Like, any thoughts on that? Or yeah.
Typically, but where it gets a little fuzzy is, let's say, like Canva is probably a great example, or Airtable might be a great example, or even Miro is a great example, where they have these template marketplaces. And so it's like templates are great for PLG because people can sign up and use them, and it creates this nice virality loop where you can have user generated content and you're creating content to help other people to use your platform. But typically, it's also a huge long tail SEO opportunity. And so there's opportunities for collaboration there. But yes, typically you would think about a little bit of a handoff moment between generating the right type of traffic and then kind of the commercialization of that traffic. With a lot of feedback loops and like collaboration, I suppose.
Yep. Well, that's awesome. No, this is a super good visual, very easy to understand. Yeah, let's go to segmentation now because
Cool.
that ultimately is going to probably make or break a lot of the 80-20, 20-80 revenue pie charts you just kind of showed, right?
For sure. All right, so let's talk about scaling and segmentation. And so I think about this as a building block to integrating those two experiences. And it actually might make more sense going in the order that we did. So everybody knows this. You can't treat everybody the same, right? There's all these different offers in a product-led world. You've got, free plans, you've got free trials, you've got free trials that convert into free plans. You've got these different use cases that people sign up with and different preferences. And so we need to treat people differently based on what we know about them. But what stuff is important? And so we know segmentation needs to happen in some way, shape, or form, right? In marketing, we know this. We don't run one campaign. We don't run one ad grouping. We experiment. And what we learn is that over time, the more segmented we become, usually the higher we convert. And in sales, you kind of learn the same thing. And so the question becomes, what are the best ways to segment? And my teams went down a rabbit hole here. We tested vertical, title, persona, industry, revenue, team, company size, geo. Like we literally did tests against all that stuff. And we wanted to see which ways to segment would be the most impactful from a conversion standpoint and also be the most actionable. And where it led us was down this road, which is that the two most powerful levers that we could pull to segment in a product-led world would be by use case, which I sometimes call job to be done, or by level of relevant experience. And these are good because one, huge differences in conversion rates, and two, super actionable. Just pausing in case there was any questions. Okay, cool.
No, that's just I'm just thinking like that's very interesting. The first one I knew about, but level of experience, that's interesting. Yeah.
So we'll go deeper.
Okay.
So if you think about use case or job to be done, people sign up with all these different reasons. And if you can surface those, ideally you can treat them differently in the product, via email, with your tours, with your checklist, with your sales experience, et cetera. And that should lead you to more conversions. And sometimes it even aligns really nicely with different plan types. And that was kind of Derek's question earlier, is like, is there a different model here for a 100K versus a 10K product? And probably. And sometimes this aligns nicely and sometimes it's not quite perfect. And so if we segment by job to be done, the main question is, how do you figure out what your jobs to be done are? Because most companies don't really know, or they think they know, but like they kind of don't really know. So my favorite way is you run an open-ended survey, either during the sign-up form or directly afterwards, and you ask an open-ended version of this question. Thanks for being here. Would you mind sharing the main reason why you created an account today? And you get their raw responses. You get a couple hundred, export them in a spreadsheet. Eventually what you'll see is like 4 or 5 common themes. Those are basically your jobs. And then what you want to do is remove the open-ended form and make it a drop-down so that people can self-select what their goal is or what their job to be done is when they sign up. I'm going to give you a few examples of this in the wild. So Miro, I love the way that they do this. This is the first thing you see after you fill out the sign-up form, whether it's sign up with Google or you put in your email. They literally just say, hey, tell us what you want to do. We'll customize the product based on your answer. And they do. So if you select that tile on the top left, strategy and planning, the very next thing that you see are specific strategy and planning templates, which is great. You can imagine that type of segmentation leads to better usage and more conversions down the road. Canva, all the big players do this, right? So Canva is another one. The bottom question here after they service a couple things is what's your main goal for signing up? I answered to create internal communications. And the very next thing they shared are specific templates that I could customize for internal sharing, which I thought was very savvy. Here's another example. It's from Com. It's more B2C, maybe B2C to B. What brings you to Com? You select, if you select that top goal, improve sleep quality, they literally change the background and all the examples and testimonials and everything that you see to be sleep focused, which I think is extremely savvy. Typeform is another one. What's the goal of your survey? This is the first thing you see when you create a new account. Help us to understand what you're looking to do, and we'll help you do it. And another example from copy.ai. Hey, what's the main use case you're looking to build here? And the reason why they're doing all this, all the examples, the reason why I've serviced all these is to do two things. One, help you learn which of your use cases is most popular. Of the folks who are signing up, which ones are the most common, and then help you to figure out which one correlates to value more in terms of revenue. Which one of these use cases drives the most lifetime revenue? Because the ones that sign up that are really, really high, those might be part of the 15% that you send straight to sales.
And this is fantastic. If you're able to do this with your product, this is fantastic from a marketer standpoint, specifically product marketing, to help you then better articulate value through messaging and copy based off of this data and information.
It's huge. And what you find is like you could also use this and back out and make website pages for each one of these goals, which a lot of the big players have done, or even take a feedback loop after folks purchase and give that to your acquisitions team and say, hey, great, go run some specific campaigns focused on this use case and use this list for lookalikes. And like you all of a sudden get this great feedback loop using your product and intent data. So that's why I like jobs to be done in the goal section.
Derek is a great perspective. Thank you. So nice job, Andrew. He's saying great perspective. Thank you from Derek.
Oh, hell yeah. Appreciate the attaboy, Derek. And then the other way we can segment that I've learned is really impactful is level of experience. There's 3 different experience levels, right? You could have no experience, a little, or a lot. And pretty intuitive folks that have very little experience probably buy at much lower rates than those with lots of experience. They buy much slower. They need much more education to be successful. And knowing enables you to treat them differently.
But how do you know? So you're going to get into like, how do you know who has experience? You're going to get into, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Dude, here's how you do it. You just ask.
Oh, interesting.
At every company I've been at, we just ask. So here's Miro, right? Directly after you, or they always experiment. So I'm not sure which screenshot this is from, if it's today or if this is a few weeks ago, but either directly after they asked your goal or directly before they asked this, which is, have you used Miro before? Nope, it's my first time. Yeah, I've used it a little bit, or yes, often. And for the screenshots I took for today, I selected no, it was my first time. And if you select that, then they show you an introduction to Miro, like slider tour thing. And then just to be sure, I signed up again and I did it as an expert, and it was like much more contextual guidance that probably a beginner wasn't ready for. So I love this. Copy.ai does the same thing. If you're in an industry like in the AI space where everything's new and people, it's like the use case kind of determines how successful you are in the product, because a lot of people don't engage in the product because they don't know how to use it. Service in this is everything. And so they do the same thing. They ask, have you used generative AI before? Oops. Yes, I've used it, or no, I've never done it. I've like done it a little bit, or I use this all the time. And then they treat you differently. They show you different educational resources. They suggest different help videos, different examples, different testimonials based on what you share. And then Shopify does this too. And the whole goal is because once you understand someone's use case and their level of experience, you can provide a ton of value on their terms and determine where you should prioritize. And then as we talked about, like integrating with the sales experience, some of these use cases, you just siphon right off to sales at the moment of sign up, because you know, if they sign up with this use case and they have a lot of experience, then sheesh, pretty high likelihood that they're going to buy and probably buy one of our high value plans and probably going to have some custom questions that our team needs to be ready and prepared for. And this is some of the ways that you can use product data and product-led data to enhance the sales experience and use that product data to sell more and sell faster, ideally.
Love this. So each of these will take someone down a different path.
Yeah.
And after that initial onboarding, have you seen them be used for anything else?
The goals and things like that.
Yeah, like the experience level, like that piece of information, like outside of just the initial product onboarding, say they click away and they come back in 3 days. Is this being used? Have you seen it be used in any other facet? Is it being used with the sales team in any way? Like how else is this data maybe being used to help someone get to a purchase?
When I think about activation and like new user behavior, there's sort of these three checkpoints in the process. There's the setup, which is helping you customize your account and colors and all that kind of stuff. There's hitting the aha moment, which is getting to that first value for the first time, experiencing value for the first time. And your journey there is going to be different if you're new versus if you're very experienced. It's going to be a lot faster if you're experienced. And then ideally, onboarding as one more step, which is helping someone experience that value again and develop a habit or increase their behavior over time. And so I've seen it be really helpful in that journey. And it's going to take a lot more prodding and encouragement and examples and documentation to get to that habit formation step than not. But no, once somebody's at that habit formation step, typically they grow out of the beginner into like the more intermediate level. And I think you've done your job at that point. I've never resurveyed it. Like, hey, when you signed up, you said you were a beginner. Would you say you're still a beginner? But that would be fun to do.
That's really helpful. No, that's super helpful. Question: after someone engages in a journey and buys, do you also set up journeys that help them mature from the current level of experience to a higher level of experience? So after they buy.
Not in that exact way, but in a different way. Yes. So when I think about later in the product-led journey, let's say there's a paying customer. They've been around for a couple of years, and when we analyze their data, they're not as engaged as another paying customer. So the playbook that I've run there that I've seen work really, really well is to come up with some kind of internal engagement score, and then you can rank everybody on this scale and then run specific campaigns to target folks who are kind of in the middle of that engagement score. They're not totally disengaged. Those are hard folks to nudge up. They're a little engaged, and they could become very engaged with the right targeted campaigns or ideas or approaches or suggestions. So that's how I've leveraged that later in the product journey.
Great tip. Love that. That's it for your slides, right? No more slides.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we went 1, 3, 2 in the order, but yeah, that's everything.
No, that's perfect. So I want to ask though about interactive demos.
Yeah, hit me.
Feel free to, just, take the slides off if you want, or just, go to your end slide and let people know where they can find you.
I'm putting on my end slide because if y'all have questions, come find me. I'm active on LinkedIn and I help companies with this stuff all day, every day. So I love it.
Andrew knows what he's talking about. If you couldn't know, I highly recommend and vouch that if you are even scratching the surface thinking about PLG, to have a full-blown PLG motion, talk to Andrew. So that's all I'm gonna say. Like, just talk to Andrew. He knows through a lot of deep experience and now working with, so is Miro one of your customers? Can you share that? Is that one of your customers?
No, Miro's not one of my customers.
Oh, okay.
Miro is just one of the companies that when you need to find examples of what good looks like, almost across the board, from the outside looking in, they do a lot of the things really, really well. And they use segmentation in a great way, and they experiment constantly, and they're constantly reinventing and basically disrupting themselves, like what we talked about earlier.
Well, so and that's a simple. No, go ahead. Sorry, taking a sip of water. I was just saying that's a simple tip. Like that to me, just follow the patterns. So just sign up for 15, 20, 25 free product experiences and you'll see patterns. Like, don't try to reinvent something here. You may want to innovate off of some PLG pattern, but the patterns exist, right, Andrew?
Yeah, they're out there. If you look at the big mature players, those are the ones to pattern match off of. Every small company has the linear thing. It's like They might have a free plan or a free trial. Maybe they've even done a little bit of onboarding work. A couple people have bought it and they're not sure why. And the reason why is because they have this one size fits all thing, but they don't know how else to build it, right? Or they're stuck debating, how do we segment? How many different things should we segment? Who do we prioritize when we do segment? And that's kind of why I structured the content today the way that I did.
I love it. All right. So last thing, unless there's other questions,
Did you?
interactive
I thought we
demos.
were going to jam on interactive demos.
No, that's the last thing. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
That's the last thing. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
No, dude, I want to jam on this hard because like we'll carve this out and make it into like a couple clips probably. Interactive demos. I love Nevadic. Shout out
Yep.
to Natalie and the team over at Nevadic. What's your take? Just
So
to
here's
start
what I
there.
learned.
Yeah.
As the person directly accountable for the results of the product-led motion, I was frustrated because what I saw over and over is about 40 to 50% of the people that signed up didn't do anything. Like every Friday, my team would watch a bunch of new signups. We'd get in a room, we'd pull up full story, and we'd watch 20 people go through the onboarding process. And it was like half of them signed up, clicked 3 things, and left. And then they never came back. And we were like, the hell's going on, man? Like, what's the deal? And so we surveyed like tens of thousands of people. We got 2 responses. The response was like, it's so hard to engage people that aren't, that are already disengaged. But the responses were basically, I just wanted to see the product. You had some screenshots. I wanted to see it in action. I wanted to see the user experience. I just wanted to poke around. I'm not ready. I don't have a video today. I'm not ready to buy tomorrow. I'm doing some research for something that I might be interested in 2 months from now. And we were like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so it was like we had this issue because we had all these signups. It was clogging. It was messing up our data. There was so much noise in the numbers. And we had a hard time modeling out what we thought our month would look like from a revenue standpoint. So we were like, shoot, what if we just ungated parts of the product? We could make different versions of the ungated experience based on the use cases that we think are most popular. And let's just put it on the website and see what happened. And so we did that at Wistia. And what we found is the total signups went down, but the number of activated accounts actually went up. And so we're like, shoot, this had an unintended benefit of actually helping people build momentum in the product before they actually fill out the form and get into the product. That's pretty killer. And what happened is folks were writing in and saying, hey, that's like, this experience is great. It's providing a lot of value. My team loved it. I could share it externally and everyone understood all the features and the benefits. And I was like, man, well, that's pretty fascinating. And so I went to Postscript, my last gig, and we built the exact same similar experience. And we did it in-house. Like it took us weeks of engineering time. If anyone works with engineers, you got to know about code decay, which means if you just stop building it, at some point it breaks. And so now when I work with companies who are interested in validating this, because you should validate before you go spend weeks and weeks of building. I think it's great. There's all these third-party tools. Nevadic's usually the one I send folks to as well. But it's great to have some way using no-code or low-code tools to quickly spin up some of these things and validate it. And I'm a huge fan of the movement because I've seen what happens if you don't have this, which is that it's frustrating for people and it's frustrating for you pulling the numbers.
Great perspective. One thing that I took away from that is this idea of like quality versus quantity and how this interactive demo type experience can help on the quality side when it comes to PLG and also kind of maybe open up the top of the funnel a bit.
In different ways, for sure. Definitely helps with the quality because by the time they get into your product, they've already used it a bunch. They've already built momentum. They already know what to expect, filtered out all the tire kickers, so to speak. So like quality is higher. Typically that's reflected when folks write in. Like they write in and we'll talk about it. They'll be like, oh, the interactive thing pre-sign up, like that was so cool. That's why we bought. I was able to share it with my boss and they got it and all this stuff. And yeah, on the acquisition side, you could use it for retargeting, for remodeling. It's a major touch point in the process. And it's a different offer for folks who want a demo, but don't want to talk to somebody or don't want it over the phone or don't want to be sold to. So a ton of benefits that you can use for, in other ways.
Okay. Very interesting. Fantastic. Andrew, I don't think there's any other questions. I don't see any right now. Huge thank you for you putting this together in your time. And people can connect with you on LinkedIn. Check out deliveringvalue.co. There'll be a lot of people watching this on demand. So reach out to Andrew. Anything related to PLG, woodworking, he's your go-to.
All of it, man. You want to make a new table? Let's talk.
What's your favorite type of wood? I know it depends on what you're baking. So let's use the table as an example. Like what would you love to make a table out of?
Well, so I made a table out of black walnut, and it's my favorite thing that I've ever made. Black walnut's beautiful, it's expensive. But if you're making something for your house that you're going to use every day for many, many years, totally worth it. I have a new project coming up that I haven't started yet.
Oh,
I'm going to try to get a live edge slab. I've done a slab before, but I'm going to try to get two slabs and book match them. So basically 2 pieces of the tree that you fold this way and you attach them so it looks like one seamless design. And I'm going to try to make that into a dining table at some point in my new house.
oh, that's awesome, man. Good luck with that. That sounds
That'll be
amazing.
fun.
Yeah, you could, I mean, yeah, you probably know more than I do, people listening. Like, there's some big money in that stuff. You know, it's people would pay big money for those types of tables.
My friends all joke. They're like, what are you doing doing the tech thing? You should just go do that full time. But I don't know, maybe in a different chapter of my life.
Fair enough. Well, congrats on the next kid. Thank you again, my friends, and everyone listening. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, week, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks for having me.